Can't beat a bit of shadow wrestling. And yeah, I used to do this a long time ago because where am I going with this? Anyways, so I'll make a video. I'll cover a few things, but basically, I don't know. Just thought about shadow wrestling then, and when I first started arm wrestling, I never really arm wrestled. Never had training partners, so it would be you'd go to a tournament and you'd wrestle. You'd get a chance to go on the table, learn a few things. Now I think it's something that's died a death nowadays because everyone can find information on every single angle and every kind of pulling technique and setup and grip and what people train. But back in the day when I first started, there wasn't anything like that. You had the Northeast message board, and you could find odd videos and stuff on there, and people talking about stuff. Engin was on there a lot, and Devon and people like that. Back in like the early 2000s, so I would go to competitions, I would arm wrestle, and then you go on the practice table, and that's where people would actually talk and cover different angles and areas and like, well, how do you do this? And you're really good at that, but then how do I do it? You had no idea. There was no internet or anything that explained anything on there. And so that's where you would learn. But then when I come away from all that, because I didn't have training partners, it was a lot in here. So you would train, how would your opponent set up? How would the referee set me up? Where was my body angles? If someone hit me there, how would my body react? How do I react to that movement? What pressures am I feeling in the hand? How can I adjust that? Does height help it? Do I get lower? There's so many different things. And so then once you understood that a little bit more, then you would work on angles and you would train it, and you would train, well, I would train shadow wrestling. So I knew I had to be like wrist further forward, maybe straighten out, keep that shoulder up. You would think about keeping that elbow floating. You would attack on the higher knuckle. You weren't sucking your wrist in. All these little things, and you would find a movement that was smooth to you, that you found that was strong, and you just practice it. You practice it on your own, which sounds a bit stupid, and probably, to be fair, but it worked, because it worked this rather than all this. Yeah, you could be really strong here, but this was training this and training the movement and getting everything just firing how you want it to be. It's just practice, and a lot of time you can practice the strength moves, practice the power, but then actually applying it to the table, this is what actually where it comes down to it when you're competing, is having that actual movement set in stone. You've repeated it 1,000 times, so it doesn't matter even if you're weaker on the day. If this movement is 100% perfect, as good as you can be, then you've got to be proud of yourself, because then you've put the effort in, and that you've done everything you could, and maybe your strength wasn't there, your power wasn't there, or maybe something else has come up, and every event you would learn something new and realise, oh shit, I've missed out on that portion of it, or someone's hit me there and I've never felt that before. And so you have to adapt. And arm wrestling is adaptation and adapting and being versatile. And the more you can get on the table, the more you're gonna improve and be more of a well-rounded arm wrestler. But yeah, anyways, I just felt like having a little bit of a natter there, talking about stuff. But yeah, everyone has got their own little ways of training. But one thing I found, shadow wrestling, it ain't that dumb. Catch you later, guys.